So these past two episodes of Fire Force have been an absolute treat. Fire Force is obviously known for its incredible animation and its fight sequences that somehow continue to evolve non-stop. It never feels like fights grow stagnant and boring, but rather there's always something new. You can take the past couple of episodes, we're still kind of exploring the whole talking Infernals, and you're seeing some crazy fire arrows, and you're seeing these almost like fire dogs biting on Shinra's butt and things like that. It's absolutely hilarious and badass all wrapped up into one. But the thing with Fire Force that has drawn me in the most, which most importantly happened towards the end of the first season and has just continued to spiral out of control in the best possible way with the second season, is the lore, the world building, and the overall character stories that are being explored. You have the most relevant, of course, Shinra's brother, and just Shinra trying to figure out if he can save him from this cult. But this week's episode and a little bit of last week's episode really is starting to explore more on the lore, and we're seeing how bad it truly gets when basically the end of the world truly approaches. Because if we thought just some of these Infernals that they needed there's only like a handful, a couple of people who can deal with them by themselves in order to create enough fire to take out some of these monstrosities. And when you don't have them, you have to basically round up literally every squad to attack them. You're seeing not only that, but you're seeing an army of Infernals that have more than likely wandered the earth for 250 years. And even if you spent months upon months, you'll either end up dead or not be able to even squash probably half of them. It's insane to think that the end of the world actually feels like the end of the world in Fire Force. And that may sound a little ridiculous because when you hear end of the world, you expect destruction, cataclysmic events, and things like that. But the thing with Fire Force is that it's a step above with its endgame premise, because a lot of times when you have these shows that try to portray this insane event, it kind of feels underwhelming. Like, yeah, you have this big bad boss, but at the end of the day, what's really at stake? But the constant reminder that it's going to be like a volcano erupting and lava and magma will be everywhere, it actually does feel terrifying. Sure, the past couple of episodes may have had some pretty funny moments, and hell, you get talking animals. It's cute, it's fun, what's there to really be afraid of? But then when you get the constant reminder that things are literally on fire and the world is going to be destroyed, it's kind of understandable why people would get a little freaked out, especially considering that it seems like the thing that Vulcan's parents made is basically a weapon of destruction. And it's quite interesting because this ability that is seemingly so evil and corrupt can seemingly bring a force to life, and there's this potential of using it for really powerful and good things. But like it's mentioned, it's also the same thing that can cause so much destruction. It's almost like being given this weapon that can do really great things, but in the wrong hands can do evil. And it's a matter of, do you even trust keeping it around, or should you just get rid of it? And the people with this ability, what do you do? Do you lock them away, or do you just keep them on the straight and narrow? It's a very complex question, and they don't really give you a right or wrong answer over these past couple of episodes, or Fire Force in general. They continuously try to spice up the answers and formulas, and you just never know what to expect or what to think. Fire Force definitely has had its fair share of criticism over the first season. I haven't seen too much over the second season, which I think just because the second season has been such a banger. But there definitely has been a lot of people, I think, underestimating what Fire Force can be. But based on these past couple episodes, yes, there's a lot of shonen comedy, a lot of fun sequences, but at the end of the day, these past two episodes were all about lore and world building. That's honestly its entire objective. Like, sure, we're obviously progressing throughout the main story as we have this, basically, if we have the key that we know Dr. Giovanni wanted, could do a lot of bad things for her, and there's the mystery of what it means and what Vulcan's parents had to do with it, and just the idea of what it was made for. And then you have the whole idea that someone who looks so corrupt and evil, almost like a wicked witch of the West, apparently was the one who saved these animals and gave them the ability to speak, and you're like, what was the point of that? What was the reason for doing that? And you actually don't know. Fire Force is just throwing a lot of information our way without it feeling overwhelming, but rather it's just saying pretty much everything you're throwing at us, it makes sense. It feels like what we've come to expect with Fire Force, but you're just adding on to the mystery, and we wish we had the answers, but many of these answers probably aren't going to come until the end of the anime. And that's what's exciting about this, is it feels like there's so much happening, but it also understands when to take it a bit slower and just have a bit of fun with it. I think the idea of having talking animals in any other series would probably feel pretty jarring, especially considering we're in a world where basically people are scared of spontaneously combusting and burning alive as their family cries at them. And we've had a lot of darkness in season 2. But the idea that people can randomly be given this ability to turn into fire, basically, Human Torch style. I don't think it's that insane to think that the ability of fire, almost being like this torch of giving life, could have the ability to go a step further and maybe give the ability to speak and things like that. There's a lot we don't know about the flames in this world, and even though the flames are basically being portrayed as like this destructive force, as seen by some of the dialogue in Shinra's comments, it also feels like the flames of life. And that's an interesting concept, especially considering a lot of authors would go the route of just keeping it like, oh, fire equals bad and it burns and it does things. Sure, some of our heroes have the ability to use it, but still they're using their fires to destroy. But definitely feels to me like Fire Force is building up the idea that it can also be used, the flames itself, as a way to give life and to do things that are beautiful and pure. And it's interesting how that idea of beautiful and pure could be twisted by a cult to make it look like burning is a purity. As you see with some of these talking Infernals, how they're basically talking about once they're dead, they'll basically go to heaven and things like that, and if you touch us, you won't be able to go to heaven. It's such an interesting concept, and it just has my mind racing on where they could possibly go from here. And you definitely know Fire Force is on a roll. Last week's episode, which I didn't have time to talk about last week when it initially aired, was a really fun episode that kind of took it a bit slower, and I actually thought they were going to go in a very wrong direction where we're just going to focus on, oh, the potato farmer's family is basically, they're having trouble, and they quickly brush it aside with the talking mole who's just like, oh yeah, if I was able to go get my normal food, I wouldn't have to do this. And I was like, thank you, because I feel like a lot of times you get these kind of like side deviation stories where it's like, yeah, it connects to a side character in their family, but is it really all that interesting when we have a literal conspiracy and cult at play? Let's focus on that, and I'm glad that they still are focusing on that while kind of sprinkling in some humor. Honestly, just everything about the past couple episodes just had my eyes glued to the screen. It had me thinking and theorizing and speculating and knowing I probably don't even know the half of it yet. And to think that about a show that honestly had its ups and downs in the first season for me. Really enjoyed it, but also could see like maybe they're not going to the full potential. Was it really worthy of the author's name based on what they've made in the past? But yes, honestly, Fire Force could be their best work depending on how it goes. Like, endings can make or break things for sure, but seeing like just how much more complex it's getting week by week, I'm absolutely enthralled by it. It seems so intriguing, and I'm so excited to see where they're going to take it, because I'm loving how it's not just like one episode is like, here's a new villain, here's a new baddie, and they fight him and they're done. But rather, these fights can last episodes upon end, and it makes it feel much more engaging as if it's a realistic fight for this world, rather than just a random plot object that we're going to forget about within a week's time. I'm loving the idea of the talking Infernals. We hadn't seen too many, but the more we see of them, the more my mind races on what they truly represent for the series, and I'm so excited to see what's going to happen with Shinra, especially considering that he has a link activated, and that could be a good or bad thing depending on what happens and what this woman truly represents for the series. She may have given the animals the ability to talk, but she also looks kind of corrupt, but maybe we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. But of course, as always, I'm going to get your thoughts and feelings on the past couple of episodes of Fire Force down below. If you love it, you hate, your favorite moment, and where you think it might go next week. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't been around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.